Important kinds of thinking were chosen for the John Langrehr thinking program. They were to do with creative thinking or inventiveness and critical thinking, or you could call inquisitiveness. Curiosity, getting students to ask questions, is terribly important in the world that they're coming into. And creativity, coming up with unusual ways of solving problems, is also going to be very important. So creativity then is simply the ability to help children break away from the usual patterns of thinking. And to do this, a whole range of thinking questions were developed. For example, what are some things that you can't find in your city? Or what are some things that you can't see? These reverse kinds of thinking questions really get the thinking of the child to be quite different to what it normally is. Creative similarities. For example, how is a chair like a horse? And of course the brain puts these things in different categories, but the young child soon can flex and think about the fact that they've got the same number of legs, or they've got a back, you can sit on them, you can fall off them, and so on and so on. Creative designs are very interesting. Asking young children, why is their dog got 4 legs and not 2 legs like a human being, or 6 legs like an insect? Getting students to be curious about the creative designs of things about them. Creative uses. Ask a child what would be some unusual uses for a newspaper, a brick, an elephant, a bird. Suddenly get students to start flexing again, to break away from the usual kinds of thinking that the brain remembers for them. And then critical thinking, which is simply getting them to make judgments or making decisions or choices by themselves using relevant criteria. Now, for example, we can't really ask young children, is this particular statement a fact or an opinion? But we can ask it in other subtle ways. For example, is a cat prettier than a dog? Some people would say yes, but would all children believe that a cat is prettier than a dog? And so they soon learn that that is an opinion. But can you say that a cat climbs trees better than a dog? And most would say yes, of course it does. And so the notion of a fact becomes clear. And then we could get the notion of relevance or importance of things. If they'd lost their dog, is it important to tell someone how old the dog is, where they bought the dog from, what time of the day they lost the dog, what colour the dog was? And so we can get students to think about the importance or relevance of factors, and even to make conclusions. So many young children jump to conclusions. If they see a picture of a dog with its tongue hanging out, many would say that the dog is thirsty or that it's been running, but there's no evidence for that. And so the only thing they could conclude, of course, is that the dog's tongue is hanging out. And so these kinds of simple little questions get students to start thinking more seriously about things that they hear and things that they see. And so we give them some of the kinds of questions that critical thinkers ask themselves. Students of age 4 or 5 or 6 really enjoy these kinds of questions. They're challenging questions, they're interesting questions, and they develop this curiosity, this inquisitiveness, and this inventiveness that they have within them. And so you'll see many kinds of questions embedded into the stories of the JLTP program. And I'm sure young Australian children will enjoy these kinds of questions as much as Asian students are starting to do right now.